So imagine you're staring at a canvas, right? And it's just this glowing, radiant orange smear hovering right above this really jagged, heavily textured, murky darkness.
Just reading that description, I mean, it's intense.
It is. And if you're like most people listening to this, your brain probably panics a little bit when you see something like that.
Oh, for sure. It's desperately searching the canvas because it wants a face or, a mountain range or something.
Yeah, exactly. Wants a map. We are just so hardwired to look at an image and immediately put a label on it. Like, oh, that's a tree, or, that's a house.
Right. And there's actually a name for that. It's a form of apophenia.
Apophenia, okay.
Yeah, it's this incredibly powerful tendency our brains have to find meaningful patterns, even when we're just looking at, random or meaningless data.
Like seeing shapes in the clouds, right?
Exactly like that. I mean, it's a survival mechanism, really. Back in the day, we needed to be able to spot the shape of a predator hiding in a chaotic jungle canopy.
Right, you had to know if that was a tiger or just a bunch of leaves.
Exactly. So when we look at an abstract painting, our cognitive engine is just like revving. It's trying to solve a visual puzzle so it can give us a label and make us feel safe.
And today, we're really going to look at why deliberately stripping away that map, denying the brain that easy label, is actually one of the most powerful psychological tricks an artist can use.
It really is a trick in the best way possible.
Yeah. So today we're doing a deep dive into this absolutely captivating abstract artwork by Anupam Gupta. It's a piece known as Muchu.
Which is such a brilliant example to use for this.
It really is. And our mission for you listening today is to decode exactly how abstract art manages to communicate these really profound spiritual and emotional themes, but without using a single literal recognizable figure.
Right. No trees, no houses.
Nothing. We are using Muchu as our masterclass in understanding the language of pure emotion.
And honestly, it doesn't just hang passively on a wall, It demands your attention.
It really does.
Because it refuses to give your brain that recognizable object, it forces you to stop and actually deal with the raw sensation it's projecting.
It's like it bypasses your logical brain entirely.
Completely. It goes straight to your emotional processing centers.
So I want to paint a vivid picture of this piece for you, just so you can see it in your mind's eye as we're talking about it.
Yeah, visual context is key here.
Right. So imagine a square canvas. And at first glance, it feels almost violently split into two distinct competing worlds.
Violently split is a great way to put it.
Yeah, because the top half is this glowing, ethereal expanse. It genuinely looks like it's radiating its own internal heat.
Like it doesn't even need the gallery lighting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then sitting right beneath it, the bottom half is just incredibly heavy. I mean, it's deeply textured, it's dark, it's murky and chaotic.
It's a huge contrast.
It's almost as if you're looking at a cross-section of the earth and the sky, but pushed entirely away from realism.
Pushed straight into raw feeling.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that top half, because honestly, the moment I look at this painting, my eyes are instantly, almost magnetically, drawn straight to that upper section.
What's fascinating here is how Gupta actually leverages human physiology to control exactly where your eye goes.
Wait, really? Physiology?
Yeah, absolutely. Warm, bright colors, especially when they're positioned in the upper hemisphere of a visual space, they naturally command the human eye to ascend.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
It's a really clever manipulation of visual weight. So even though it's hovering up at the top, it acts as the primary anchor for your attention.
And it is so dominant up there. We're calling this section the amber radiance because right in the upper half, there's this massive, luminous semicircle.
It really glows.
It does. It's surrounded by this incredibly rich, saturated palette of yellows and deep burnt oranges and these very warm, glowing earth tones.
But the way he applies the paint is what gets me.
Yes. It's so smooth. Like, it doesn't have the harsh ridges or the thick brush marks that we see later in the painting.
The blending is practically seamless.
It really is. It suggests something like, I don't know, a massive sun or a glowing horizon line or just pure energy.
And, that smoothness isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's an actual emotional mechanism.
How so?
Well, by keeping the brushwork heavily blended and eliminating those harsh lines, Gupta removes visual friction.
Visual friction. Okay, I like that term.
Yeah, so when your eye tracks across that upper section, it doesn't snag on anything. The physical journey of looking at that part of the canvas feels effortless.
Right. It mimics the sensation of just pure, uninterrupted clarity.
Exactly.
And that effortless feeling really translates. Like, The best way I can describe the physical sensation this amber radiance gives me,
Yeah.
it's like when you're out camping in the woods. You've been sitting by the fire all night,
Oh, I know that feeling.
and the flames have finally died down, right? The fire has burned all the way down to the core. It is pitch black all around you. The air is
Or you're
freezing.
just staring into the embers.
Exactly. You're just staring into those glowing, pulsating orange embers.
That is a perfect analogy because it taps into the exact physiological state this painting is trying to induce.
Oh,
Yeah, think about what happens to your body in that specific campfire scenario.
well, your heart rate slows down. You usually stop talking.
You just zone in.
Yeah, you just stare. It's almost hypnotic.
Exactly. Staring into the smooth, radiant warmth of a fire in the darkness, it triggers this deeply primal state of quiet contemplation.
Right. It commands your attention, but it doesn't ask you to do anything.
Right. It doesn't demand action. And if you think about human history, across virtually every culture, looking upward toward a radiant, warm light source, it evokes these universal emotional themes.
Like what?
Well, we equate light and upward mobility with hope, with enlightenment and with ascending to a higher spiritual plane.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So Gupta is utilizing that specific hardwired sensation of warmth and smooth radiance to establish a spiritual baseline for you.
He's not painting a picture of a literal sun?
No, not at all. He's painting the psychological sensation of illumination.
It's incredible how just color and smoothness can trigger all of that biological programming. It makes that upward journey for your eye feel so peaceful.
It's a moment of transcendent beauty, really.
It is. But having said all of that, Gupta absolutely does not let us just float away into the warm, fuzzy ether, does he?
Oh, far from it. If the entire canvas was just that glowing amber radiance, it would be pleasant.
It would look nice in a hotel lobby.
Right, it would be highly decorative. But it would lack gravity. It would risk feeling emotionally hollow, almost like a platitude.
Like a greeting card.
Exactly. So instead, he yanks the viewer aggressively back down to earth.
And that transition is so jarring, it's almost as if that perfect amber light inherently demands a counterweight.
Like it needs an anchor.
Yeah. If the top is pure spirit, the bottom has to be heavy reality. And my visual focus just gets pulled violently down into the chaotic lower half of the canvas.
The visual shift is incredibly abrupt.
We go straight from that smooth, warm, blended light into these dark, murky browns and these deep, mossy greens and just impenetrable pitch blacks.
And we really have to examine how he creates that heaviness. Because it's not just a change in the colors.
No, it's physical.
It is a fundamental, almost shocking shift in the physical, tactile texture of the painting itself.
It is so intense that you can practically feel the grit under your fingernails just by looking at it.
You really can.
It is incredibly physical and multi-layered. Like if you get really close to the bottom section of Mutshu, you can actually see the visible grid-like texture of the canvas weave.
Literally breaking right through the heavy layers of paint.
It's rough. It looks like it's been scraped.
And by letting that raw canvas grid break through the paint, the artist is performing a very specific trick on your brain.
Another trick.
Yeah. So most traditional paintings use layers of paint to create an illusion of three-dimensional depth, right?
It's like looking through a window into a landscape.
Exactly. But by forcefully exposing the literal woven fabric of the canvas, Gupta is interrupting your brain's attempt to perceive 3D space.
Oh, wow. He's breaking the illusion.
He is physically snapping your eye back to the flat, two-dimensional reality of the room you're actually standing in. It's an anti-illusionist technique.
It violently reminds you that you are looking at a physical, made object, not a magic window.
Exactly. It forces you to acknowledge the materials.
And speaking of materials, peppered all throughout this dark, heavy section are these scattered, sudden splashes and scrapings of stark white specks.
They're everywhere down there.
But I have to be honest here. Looking at the bottom half, I actually feel a pretty strong sense of frustration.
Oh. Tell me about that. What is the frustration reacting to?
Well, the top half is just so serene. It's that beautiful campfire contemplation we just talked about.
Right.
And then I look at these stark, white, violent scrapes and specks at the bottom, and to me it feels like vandalism.
Vandalism.
Yeah.
That's a strong word.
It just feels like an interference. Like, why ruin the serenity with all this harsh grit?
Honestly, part of me wants to take a rag and just wipe the white specks off so I can enjoy the glow.
You just want to clean it up.
I do. Are we sure this friction isn't just an aesthetic mistake?
That is a brilliant reaction, and honestly, it touches on the absolute core of abstract expressionism.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, just to quickly define that term for context, abstract expressionism is the idea that the artist isn't trying to paint a picture of an external thing.
Not a bowl of fruit or a person.
Right. They are trying to paint the internal, raw emotion itself onto the canvas, using the physical act of painting as the primary tool.
Okay.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, abstract art fundamentally relies on exactly the friction you're experiencing.
So the fact that I feel frustrated.
The fact that you feel a sense of interference that isn't a flaw in the painting, that is the exact psychological response the painting is engineered to produce.
Wait, so the discomfort I'm feeling is entirely intentional. He wants me to feel annoyed by the grit. Absolutely. The heavy, gritty, frustrating texture at the bottom represents the tangible, messy, often painful reality of the physical world.
Wow.
It is the dirt, the daily struggle, just the friction of simply existing.
And those stark white specks that feel like vandalism to me.
They ground the painting. They could be literal debris emphasizing the roughness of the physical realm,
Yeah.
or, perhaps they're stars reflected in a very murky, disturbed body of water.
Oh, wow. I love that image. Like you're looking down into a dark, muddy pond at night,
Yeah,
and you see the reflection of the sky, but it's constantly being broken up and distorted by the ripples in the dirt.
precisely. It tells you that the spiritual enlightenment of the top half is inextricably linked to the physical, messy reality of the bottom half.
So the serenity of the amber light is actually earned.
It has weight because it exists in spite of, or perhaps entirely because of the chaotic grit below it.
Right. You cannot have the transcendent peace without the underlying struggle to anchor it. That completely shifts how I look at those white specks. It's not vandalism at all. It's the foundation that makes the light matter.
Right.
Which naturally brings us to the most complex and I think the most exciting part of Muchu.
The middle.
Yes, because if the top is pure spirit and the bottom is heavy reality, they can't just exist in a vacuum separated by some polite little boundary.
They absolutely share a very active, volatile border.
They have to collide. We
Yeah.
really have to explore what happens where that ethereal light physically bleeds into the murky dark.
Because that transition zone right in the middle of the painting, that's where the true emotional and spiritual narrative really reveals itself.
It's just such an incredibly dynamic area. There's no clean horizontal line separating the two.
No, it is a zone of active engagement.
It's messy. Like right below the glowing semicircle, you suddenly see these vibrant, almost shocking hints of lime green emerging from the dark.
Yeah, those greens are striking.
And the heavy shadows from the bottom don't just stay in their lane. They seem to bleed upward. The dark, scraped texture actually looks like it's actively reaching up, like it's trying to claw its way into that smooth amber light.
While simultaneously, the amber light seems to be aggressively pushing downward.
Like it's attempting to penetrate and illuminate those murky greens and browns below it.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Because when I look at that middle section, I see an active struggle. I don't see peace at all. I see a battle.
It definitely feels tense.
The best way I can describe it is like listening to a piece of music right before the beat drops or before the chorus hits.
Oh, that anticipation.
Yeah, there's this intense auditory dissonance. The chords clash, and you literally feel this physical tension in your chest, waiting for the resolution.
Right, you just want the chord to resolve.
Looking at this transition zone gives me that exact same feeling of tension. It makes me wonder, is the darkness creeping up to eventually swallow the light? Or is the light radiating downward to burn away the dark?
This raises an important question, doesn't it?
Does it?
Yeah, and it's a question not just about how we interpret pigment on a canvas, but about the fundamental nature of the human emotional experience.
How so? Like, what does our reaction to some paint tell us about ourselves?
Well, just listen to the framework you just used. You asked, is the dark swallowing the light, or is the light burning away the dark?
Yeah, I described it as a battle.
Right. Our innate human instinct, whenever we are presented with duality or contrast, is to seek a narrative of victory.
Oh. We want one side to win.
We crave a clean resolution because resolution is safe. It allows the brain to finally categorize the event and just file it away.
We desperately want the definitive ending. We want to know who the winner is so we can stop feeling the tension of that dissonance.
Exactly. But what Anupam Gupta synthesizes here so brilliantly is that the painting refuses to offer you a clean resolution.
It denies you the victory narrative.
Yeah. Completely. The spiritual brilliance of the amber light and the heavy, textured, chaotic darkness exist simultaneously. They are locked in a perpetual balanced state of
So
interaction.
they don't just fight each other. They actually require each other.
They define each other. You literally cannot perceive the sublime, comforting smoothness of that amber radiance without the frustrating, gritty canvas weave of the dark base to compare it to.
Because if the dark wasn't there to agitate your eye, the light wouldn't feel like a relief.
Spot on. And this is exactly where abstract art stops being an object you just stare at and starts acting as a psychological mirror for you.
Because the painting isn't changing. The physical paint is completely static.
It's just sitting there.
Right, so whatever movement or outcome you perceive in that struggle, it depends entirely on what you bring to the canvas in that specific moment.
That is the magic of it. Depending on your own current emotional state or, your physiological stress levels or just your worldview on the day you stand in front of Muchu, your brain will interpret that ambiguous transition zone differently.
Really, like a Rorschach test.
Kind of, yeah. If you're in a place of optimism or growth or personal clarity, you might look at that bleeding middle section and see a sunrise.
Oh, I see. You see the amber radiance actively conquering the night, pushing the heavy darkness down and asserting its warmth.
Exactly. But if you're going through a period of intense struggle,
Or if I'm just feeling exhausted and totally overwhelmed by the grit of my own life.
then your brain projects that exhaustion right onto the canvas, and you might see a sunset. You might see the light retreating, fading away, and inevitably giving way to the chaotic, murky dark.
Wow. The artwork provides the framework. It gives you the emotional temperature through color and the physical resistance through texture. But you have to provide the final meaning.
That is incredibly powerful, isn't it? It isn't lecturing you or telling you a story.
It's practically demanding that you reveal your own internal story to yourself. You think you're judging the painting, but the painting is actually taking your emotional temperature.
That is the highest achievement of abstraction, right there. It uses the physical mechanics of color and texture to force an internal realization.
It is wild how much profound insight we've managed to pull out of a piece that, at a very quick first glance, just looks like a couple of shapes and some smeared colors.
It really is a journey.
It is. To just briefly recap this incredible journey we've been on with this piece today, we started by being completely drawn in, almost hypnotized, by that smooth, glowing amber radiance at the top.
Yay.
We explored that very primal feeling of sitting with the warm embers of a fire and the biological pull we have toward hope, enlightenment, and spiritual clarity when we see that smooth, ascending light.
That necessary moment of pure, transcendent peace that anchors the viewer.
And then we felt the jarring shock of being dragged down into the gritty, heavily layered textures of the darkness beneath it.
It's a tough drop.
Yeah, the murky greens, the scraped, anti-illusionist canvas weave literally breaking through the paint,
Yeah.
and those stark white specks of debris that feel so frustrating and chaotic.
And we realize that this represents the tangible, messy reality that we all actually live in.
The essential, grounded counterweight that gives the spiritual light its value and its gravity.
Exactly.
And finally, we found ourselves hovering in that messy middle zone, the bleeding boundary where the light and the dark collide. We explored the profound spiritual tension between the two and the realization that they aren't enemies in a battle meant to be won.
They're simultaneous realities that define each other. It is a brilliant expression of profound duality.
And I really want to remind you as you listen to this why taking the time to do this kind of analysis actually matters in your daily life.
It's not just art class stuff.
No. Why spend 20 minutes closely dissecting the scrapings and textures of an abstract painting? Because taking the time to truly observe abstract art like Muchu is an incredibly powerful active exercise in learning how to sit with ambiguity.
And ambiguity is arguably the defining characteristic of the modern human experience.
Absolutely. We live in a world that constantly aggressively demands quick answers.
Oh, totally.
We are pressured into black and white thinking, rapid-fire hot takes, and just instant categorization of every single piece of information we encounter.
It's exhausting.
It is. This painting teaches us how to pause. It actively trains our brains to find deep emotional resonance and profound meaning in the tension and the contrast, without needing a literal, neatly packaged explanation.
And that is a vital skill.
It's a cognitive muscle that we can strengthen. When we learn to appreciate the unresolved tension on a canvas, we become better equipped to process the complex, contradictory information and emotions we face in our own lives.
It rewires us. It helps us accept that two seemingly opposing truths can exist in the exact same space at the exact same time, and together they can create something deeply meaningful rather than just creating exhausting conflict.
That is perfectly stated. Learning to find the beauty in the friction.
So as we wrap up our exploration today, I want to leave you with this thought to mull over long after you finish listening.
Let's hear it.
When you encounter your own stark contrasts, when you have periods of brilliant, smooth, amber clarity in your life that are hovering directly above moments of chaotic, messy, highly frustrating reality, how do you frame them in your mind?
That's a deep question.
Do you view them as a grueling battle to be won, where the light must eventually destroy the dark for you to be happy? Or can you take a step back, look at the entire canvas of your experience, and see them as two necessary, inseparable halves of a single, complete masterpiece?
What an incredible, challenging question to walk away with. I will definitely be thinking about that today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
Keep looking closely, embrace the messy ambiguity of the middle zone, and keep seeking out the deeper layers in everything you see. Until next time.